It was a Sunday afternoon when the sky over Seaford Hill turned an odd shade of gray. The air, unusually still, and in the dense silence of the pine forest on the town's eastern ridge, something ancient, something ugly, waited to be found. When drone hobbyist Jared Finn lost signal mid-flight, he thought nothing of it. He'd flown over those woods 100 times. But that day, when the camera feed blinked back on, it revealed something strange. Caught between a knot of gnarled roots was a pale, round object. A skull, human, weathered, its hollow eye sockets staring into the lens like it had been waiting to be discovered. The footage would go viral within hours. But the horror was just beginning. Seaford Hill wasn't used to this sort of thing. It was a sleepy coastal town with one grocery store, 3 coffee shops, and a population that still left doors unlocked. But in the weeks that followed, the town would become the center of an investigation that shattered its sense of safety and the life of one woman who had once lived under the bright lights of fame. Her name was Talia Chambers. Once a rising star of the reality show Beauty and Blaze, Talia had been known for her sharp tongue, flawless skin, and a following of over 2.4 million on Instagram. A walking brand, eyeliner deals, sponsored vacations, motivational quotes in cursive font. She was adored. And then, quietly, she vanished. After a heated argument on a reunion episode leaked online, Talia left the spotlight and retreated to Seaford Hill. She claimed she wanted peace, but those closest to her knew the truth. She was unraveling. She had split with her partner Julian Marks, a 35-year-old literature teacher who taught at the local college. Their relationship had been both electric and toxic, a whirlwind of passion and suspicion. At first, they were the town's golden couple. He grounded her, they said. She inspired him. But behind closed doors, neighbors spoke of shouting, doors slamming, long silences broken by the sound of glass breaking. In one of her last posts before going private, Talia had written, "Even angels have shadows." Julian was last seen alive on a Tuesday, 3 weeks before the drone discovery. His absence was quiet at first. He didn't show up to class. Emails went unanswered. Students assumed he was ill. But when campus security entered his apartment for a wellness check, he was gone. No sign of forced entry. No blood. Just his phone on the charger and an uneaten sandwich on the counter. His car, still in the driveway. It took 2 more days before the college filed a missing person report. Detective Marla Gaines, a 20-year veteran of the Regional Homicide Division, took the case. She knew from the start that something was off. People didn't just vanish in Seaford Hill. And something about Talia's calmness at the initial interview sent red flags up her spine. She said Julian left town for clarity, Gaines would later recall. But she didn't look worried. She looked relieved. In her home, a minimalist glass house on the edge of town, Talia greeted detectives barefoot, her robe tied tight at the waist, sipping green tea. Her voice was hunted. Her expressions unreadable. She said Julian had needed space and that they were working through things. But when asked why she hadn't called him, she shrugged. He said he didn't want to be contacted. I respected that. Respect, it turned out, was selective. A week after Julian's disappearance, surveillance footage from a nearby hardware store surfaced. In the grainy video, Talia is seen buying bleach, gloves, a shovel, and an oversized black duffel bag. She paid in cash. No loyalty card. No questions. The footage was timestamped less than 24 hours after Julian was last seen. Detective Gaines ordered a forensic sweep of Talia's property. Cadaver dogs alerted near the back garden, just beneath the rose bushes she'd recently planted. Soil samples showed traces of blood, and fragments of burned clothing were found in her fire pit, ashes embedded with tiny teeth from a zipper. Still, it wasn't enough. That changed with the skull. The dental records matched Julian. The skull showed signs of blunt force trauma to the parietal bone, consistent with a hammer or heavy object. More chilling was the discovery of ligature marks on the cervical vertebrae. Julian hadn't just been killed. He had been restrained, possibly tortured. The body itself was never found. Only fragments of bone near the base of the pines, scattered by time, wind, and animals. Talia was arrested at 3:12 a.m. She was found lounging on her balcony in silk, legs crossed, sipping red wine like it was any other night. When officers approached, she didn't resist. She simply set the glass down, turned, and said, "I told him not to leave me. He knew I meant it." During the arraignment, her lawyers painted her as a victim, emotionally abused, gaslit, provoked. They argued there was no direct evidence placing her at the scene. No eyewitnesses, no full body, just a skull and a storm of circumstantial shadows. But the prosecution had more. A bonaphone was discovered hidden beneath a loose floorboard in Talia's bedroom. On it, encrypted messages, some deleted, some recovered. They were sent to a number registered in a neighboring province. Messages like, "It's done. You said you'd take care of disposal." He wasn't supposed to fight back. The phone number led to a man named Ryan Kessler, an ex-convict with ties to a cleaning business that operated after hours under a different name. Ryan disappeared the day after the skull was found. His van was discovered near the state border, abandoned, the interior scrubbed with acid. To this day, Ryan hasn't been found. This introduced a terrifying possibility. Talia didn't act alone, and she may not have been the one who delivered the final blow. But the question that chilled detectives was, why? Why kill Julian? The answer may have been hidden in Talia's past. In a journal recovered from a locked drawer in her home, pages were filled with erratic handwriting, paranoid ramblings, and disturbing sketches, eyes with knives through them, people with no mouths, repeated phrases like "he won't leave this time," and "perfect love is possession." Psychologists suggested borderline personality disorder, with delusions of abandonment and control. But others saw something simpler, darker: entitlement. The need to own someone completely. If she couldn't have Julian, no one would. At trial, Talia pleaded not guilty. Her defense team argued the journal was art therapy. The texts were planted. The bleach was for spring cleaning. She became an internet sensation once more. #Free Talia trended for weeks. Young fans wore shirts with her face on them. Others called her a narcissistic sociopath who used beauty to cloak brutality. Detective Gaines wasn't swayed. She was ice cold from day one. The scariest people aren't the ones who scream. They're the ones who smile while they're dragging the body. Despite the circumstantial evidence, despite the public fascination, the jury remained divided. Hung at 9-3, a mistrial. Talia was remanded to psychiatric custody for evaluation, pending a new trial. But just 2 weeks before the retrial could begin, something strange happened. A letter arrived at the Seaford Hill Police Department. No return address. Inside was a flash drive. It contained a 37-second video, night vision, shaky, but horrifying. It showed Julian, alive, bound to a chair, whispering a single sentence through swollen lips. She said she'd make me disappear, and she did. Then, static. No one knows who filmed it. No metadata. No sound beyond Julian's voice. No visible killer. But the implication was clear. Talia wasn't acting alone. Maybe she never was. And now, with the public divided, a vanished accomplice still on the run, and new evidence surfacing, the case remains in limbo. The prosecution is preparing. Talia waits behind padded walls. But in the forest near Seaford Hill, the pines still whisper secrets. And if you listen closely, some nights you can hear the echo of Julian's voice in the wind. She said she'd make me disappear. And maybe she wasn't lying. The room was silent. Detective Marla Gaines had watched the 37-second clip a dozen times. Each time, her chest tightened. Julian's face, battered, terrified, barely recognizable, haunted her. The way he whispered, she said she'd make me disappear. And she did. It wasn't a statement. It was a prophecy. The video changed everything. The case, once considered solved in the public's eye, cracked open again, deeper, messier, darker. The skull found in the forest was confirmed as Julian's. But now, for the first time, there was undeniable proof. He'd been alive long after Talia said he'd left. More disturbing, though, was a realization that someone else had filmed that video. Someone who hadn't come forward. Someone who had watched Julian beg for help and walked away. The prosecution scrambled. The defense smelled blood. The mistrial had already shaken public confidence, and this development turned the courtroom into a war zone of speculation. Talia Chambers remained under psychiatric observation in a secure facility. She hadn't spoken since the mistrial. Not to her lawyers, not to her therapists, not even to her reflection in the mirror. She just stared, blinked, smiled, occasionally, when no one was looking. The discovery of the video prompted a judge to approve an emergency hearing. The prosecution believed it confirmed premeditation. The defense claimed the clip could have been faked. AI generated, staged. They demanded forensic authentication. So the drive was sent to 3 independent labs across the country. Each came back with the same result. Authentic. Timestamped 2 days after Julian was reported missing. Same apartment as Talia's guest house. Same curtains. Same wallpaper. No doubt, Julian was held captive on her property. But who was behind the camera? Detective Gaines returned to Seaford Hill and re-interviewed the neighbors. A retired gardener named Elijah claimed he'd once seen a man coming and going late at night. A tall figure with a shaved head and leather gloves. Said he thought it was a cleaning guy. That detail struck Gaines. The same week Julian went missing, someone had filed for a business permit under the name Cedar Sanitizing Services. The name led nowhere. Fake address. Prepaid phone. But cross-referencing the security footage from traffic cams near Talia's house, detectives caught a break. A black van matching the description of Ryan Kessler's, Talia's suspected accomplice, was spotted entering Seaford Hill at 3:27 a.m. and leaving 47 minutes later. Kessler had a record, assault, illegal disposal, and suspected involvement in underworld cleanup jobs. He was last seen near the border weeks ago. A nationwide manhunt was reactivated, but it was already too late. 12 days after the video surfaced, a body washed up on the shore near Northmere Lake, 40 miles from Seaford Hill. The skin was bloated. Hands were missing, but the tattoo on the rib cage, a snake wrapped around a scalpel, matched Kessler's prison records. Ryan Kessler was dead. The autopsy revealed signs of blunt force trauma to the skull and chest. Cause of death, drowning, after being knocked unconscious. There was no sign of a struggle, no defensive wounds. Whoever killed him had planned it. Clean, precise. Whoever killed him wanted the trail to end. But instead, it opened another door. Inside his waterlogged pockets was a torn piece of paper, laminated. It was a partial photo, Talia and another man, standing beside a red motorcycle. The image was faded, but the man in the photo wasn't Ryan. He was younger, slimmer, wearing a leather jacket. Behind them was a rusted road sign that read, Brimstone Trail, 7 miles. Detective Gaines stared at the photo for hours. Brimstone Trail was deep in the National Reserve, off-grid. No traffic cams, no phone reception. If there was a place someone could disappear or keep someone hidden, that was it. A search team was assembled. 3 days later, they found it. Hidden at the end of the trail, tucked between rock faces and pine trunks, was a small wooden cabin. No electricity, no windows, but inside was a scene out of a nightmare. Metal chair bolted to the floor, blood-stained rope, scraps of fabric, a broken mirror with writing etched into the surface. You watched, you filmed, now you owe. A camcorder was discovered inside a drawer, battery dead. When recharged, it revealed 5 separate videos, unlabeled, silent, timestamped between Julian's disappearance and the day the skull was found. Each video showed Julian deteriorating. First clip, arms bound, pleading. Second, screaming. Third, whispering prayers. Fourth, limp, silent. Fifth, gone. Just the empty chair. But in the third video, at the 14-second mark, a second voice is audible. A woman's voice. Cold, controlled. You don't get to leave me. I'll decide when this ends. Gaines's blood ran cold. Back at the facility, Talia remained silent. But when detectives confronted her with the cabin footage, something changed. Her smile vanished. Her hands shook. For the first time, she looked afraid. You have no idea what you're stepping into, she whispered. And then she said something that made Detective Gaines's stomach flip. You think I planned this? You think I ran the show? I wasn't the only one who loved him. The investigation took a new direction. Detectives went back through Julian's personal life. Emails, texts, contacts. One name came up repeatedly. A woman, Laura Wren, a former classmate, obsessive, had written him dozens of messages over the years, many unanswered, a few affectionate. One email, sent just a month before his disappearance, read, "She doesn't deserve you. I never let you go like that. Never." Laura Wren had changed her name. She now went by Maya Wolf, a name that appeared on the lease for a short-term cabin rental near Brimstone Trail. The cabin Talia had never been tied to. Maya Wolf had vanished 2 days after the last video was filmed. Now the theory has shifted. Talia may have been involved, yes, but someone else, a third player, had been orchestrating events in the background. Maybe the person who killed Ryan. Maybe the person behind the camera. Maybe the person who delivered the final blow. Detective Gaines sat with Talia one last time. "What happened in that cabin?" she asked. Talia's voice trembled. "I wanted to scare him. I wanted to make him feel what I felt. But I didn't kill him. She did. I begged her to stop. I begged her to let him go." "Who is she?" She said he was hers before he was ever mine." Gaines leaned forward. "What was her name?" Talia looked up, but before she could answer, the lights in the facility flickered and went out. That same night, in a remote motel 2 towns over, a housekeeper entered room 206 after checkout time. What she found inside would stop her cold. A newspaper clipping. The headline, "Social Star to Face Retrial in Grisly Murder Case." A lipstick stain on a wine glass. And on the mirror, scrawled in red, "He was mine. She just borrowed him." The storm hit at midnight. Wind lashed the walls of the Seaford psychiatric facility as the emergency generators kicked in, casting the corridors in flickering yellow light. Staff rushed to secure patients. But in observation room C11, Talia Chambers sat completely still, eyes wide, body rigid, as if she'd seen the ghost of her own sins. Detective Gaines stood at the end of the hallway, drenched from the rain. A nurse handed her a soaked clipboard. "She's not responding anymore," the nurse said. "Hasn't blinked in 2 minutes. She's in some kind of dissociative state." But Gaines didn't believe that. Talia wasn't shutting down. She was remembering. Hours earlier, in room 206 of a roadside motel 2 towns over, police had recovered a single strand of hair, jet black, curled at the root, from the wine glass on the table. It was sent for rapid DNA processing. The match came back to a woman named Maya Wolf, formerly Laura Wren. Her records painted a portrait of a woman who had been slowly erasing herself for years. Legal name changes, gaps in employment, psychiatric holds in 2017 and 2019 for delusional obsession and attachment disorder. In both cases, the patient had written a name in dozens of spiral-bound journals. Julian Marks. They were never in a formal relationship. According to emails, Julian had tutored Laura briefly in college. She had mistaken kindness for love. Her messages grew possessive, demanding, then threatening. Julian never responded to most of them, but someone else did. In a disturbing twist, an archived account revealed that Talia had once messaged Laura, back when she still used her original name, after discovering her obsessive emails. "You don't know him like I do," Talia had written. "Stay away. This isn't healthy." To which Laura replied, "He was never yours to keep. You just borrowed him." Now everything made sense. The rage, the obsession, the slow unraveling. But the final truth remained. Who killed Julian Marks? Was it Talia, in a jealous outburst? Or Maya Wolf, in a twisted performance of devotion? Or both? Detective Gaines returned to the Pines. There, with fresh crime scene clearance, she and her team reopened the cabin. This time, they searched every crevice, under floorboards, inside the rotting wood walls, even the old fireplace. And there, behind the bricks of the hearth, wrapped in plastic, was a journal. It was Julian's, water-damaged, smudged ink, but still legible. Inside were dated entries spanning his final days. His tone changed over time, from confused to terrified to strangely calm. But one page, written in shaky handwriting, stopped Gaines cold. There are 2 of them. She ties me up. She feeds me. She sings to me. The other one, she watches. She films everything. Further down the page, circled in blood. This isn't about love. It's about control. Gaines knew then, this wasn't a crime of passion. It was a coordinated psychological breakdown by two women locked in a delusion where Julian was no longer a man. He was a symbol, a prize, and they destroyed him trying to win. But Maya Wolf was still out there, and she wasn't done. 5 days after the motel room discovery, crime scene investigators pulled GPS history from a phone charger left behind. It pinged in 3 rural towns over the last month. In the last town, Bell's Hollow, a florist remembered a woman matching Maya's description. She bought 24 white lilies, the florist said she was planning a funeral, but she was smiling. Police canvassed local graveyards. Nothing turned up until they reached the oldest one, on the edge of town. Overgrown, mostly forgotten. There, beneath a tree, they found a freshly dug spot. Inside the shallow grave was a mannequin, dressed in Julian's clothes, with a laminated photo of him taped to its face. The words "Till death do us part" were written across the chest in lipstick. Gaines was now certain Maya Wolf had crossed the line from obsession to ritual, and she was circling closer to Talia. Security was doubled at the facility. Talia was moved to a secure isolation unit, but she began acting strangely, speaking in riddles, carving phrases into her wall with plastic utensils. Things like, "The one who watched. She's coming for me. I shouldn't have brought him to the cabin." Her psychologist believed it was a trauma response. But Gaines knew better. Talia was trying to say something. Then, it happened. On the night of the storm's aftermath, under the cover of chaos, Anais failed to return from break. Her locker was found open, her ID missing. At 3:42 a.m., a power surge tripped the hallway lights. At 3:47 a.m., the security feed glitched. By 3:50 a.m., Talia Chambers was gone. Authorities launched a regional manhunt. Roadblocks, drones, dogs, no trace. But in the woods behind the facility, something caught a trooper's attention. A string of white lilies tied to a tree branch, forming a trail. It led deep into the forest. At the end of the path was a message carved into bark. "She's mine again. MW. It's been 4 weeks since the escape. Neither woman has been found." The woods surrounding Seaford Hill remain under close surveillance, but locals report strange sightings. 2 women seen walking together in the fog, laughing. One with long hair, one in a silk robe. No one has been able to confirm it. But Julian's story continues to haunt the town, because what began as a love triangle has become something far more sinister. A story of 2 women bound not by romance, but by madness. A madness that still breathes beneath the pines. The woods had gone silent. Even the wind, which normally rustled through the towering pines above Seaford Hill, had stilled. And in that eerie quiet, the last trace of Talia Chambers and Maya Wolf had vanished without a sound. No footprints, no bodies, no definitive sightings. Just lilies. Always lilies. Detective Marla Gaines stood at the edge of the forest trail, eyes fixed on the tree where the bark bore a final, blood-etched message. "She's mine again." The message was signed simply, MW. Weeks passed. Public interest in the case reached a fever pitch. Theories swirled across social media. That Maya had murdered Talia and buried her deep in the forest. That the 2 women had faked the escape and fled the country. That Talia had never really been the killer. That Maya had orchestrated everything. And then came the envelope. It arrived at the Seaford Hill Police Department. No stamp, no return address, just dropped in the mail slot overnight. Inside, a single photograph. 2 women seated on a bench in front of a lake. One wore a hoodie, the other, a silk robe, both smiling, peacefully. The photo was dated 3 days prior. Gaines examined the backdrop, trees, reeds, an abandoned canoe. Her team used environmental tracking to triangulate the location. Ravensby Lake, a remote area up north known only to fishermen and campers. A new search was launched. At Ravensby Lake, they found the bench. The same one from the photo. Fresh footprints led to the edge of the water, and stopped. In the grass beneath the bench, buried shallow beneath moss and damp leaves, was another item, a wedding band. Simple, gold. Engraved inside were 3 words. You, me, forever. Forensic testing confirmed traces of blood. Not Talia's, not Maya's, Julian's. Then, a break. A hiker named Leon spotted 2 women in the nearby town of Gracetown. One matched Maya's appearance, but with dyed blonde hair. The other, presumed to be Talia, was wearing oversized sunglasses and walked with a limp. He followed them briefly, snapping a blurry photo before they disappeared into an alley. That photo, though grainy, revealed something startling. Talia's left wrist had a new tattoo. It read, "Set me free." Detective Gaines made a gut decision. Go silent. No press, no alerts, no leaks. Instead, she sent plainclothes agents to canvass Gracetown. They reviewed hotel logs, bus tickets, pharmacy security footage. It led to a cabin, rented under a fake name, Rachel and Marnie Wild. Paid in cash, no ID required. By the time police arrived, it was empty. Clean, sterile, except for one thing. On the bed was a single piece of parchment, aged at the edges. In perfect cursive, "To whom it may concern, Julian is finally at peace. We gave him what you couldn't. He'll never be forgotten. But we were never criminals. We were just undone." M&T. Pinned to the paper with a safety pin was a final photograph. Julian's journal, open to a page with one sentence, circled. "They both loved me, but not like I wanted." A month passed, then 2, until finally, closure came not from a police discovery, but from a wildfire. Lightning struck the northern pines during a summer storm. The blaze tore through 12,000 acres of untouched forest, including parts of Ravensby Lake and Brimstone Trail. When rescue crews reached the area 2 weeks later, they found what Seaford Hill never expected. A single structure burned to its foundation. A cabin. 2 charred remains inside, embracing each other, one wearing a gold ring, the other clutching a silk robe. DNA tests confirmed it. Talia Chambers and Maya Wolfe were dead. Their story ended in fire. Their madness consumed them both, but not before they left behind a trail of grief, obsession, and questions that may never be fully answered. Why didn't Talia leave Julian when she had the chance? Why did Maya cling to a man who barely knew her? Why did 2 women destroy the thing they claimed to love? Julian Marks never got justice. He became something else entirely, a cautionary tale of what happens when love is not love at all, when control wears the mask of care, when obsession becomes oxygen, and when 2 women, driven by delusion, guilt, and grief, choose to vanish into the one place they could both be free. The woods. The place where secrets sleep beneath the pines.